Hi, this is Stephanie Stock from Ohio Advocates for Medical Freedom. Today we're meeting with families that are going through the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program process. And we have Anne Abbott here today with her daughter Rozs, and we're going to talk about their struggle to survive a very serious vaccine injury. After receiving vaccines, Rozs developed intractable seizures. Was this the first knowledge that you had that vaccines could cause harm?
Well, I had known in the past that there was some with fevers or just basic, what you would say, non-harmful side effects that you could have from vaccines. So yes, this was the first time I knew that major issues or health concerns could happen from a vaccine.
Okay, and did anyone mention the vaccines to you at the time? I mean, is that something that...
No, after thinking about when she first had her first seizure, they had asked us in the hospital if anything had changed within the last week, or if she had fallen or hurt herself, or if she had been ill. And I didn't think of anything at the time, but I did mention to them that she had had the MMR vaccine about a week or prior to that, or about 10 days prior to that.
Okay. Now, Rozs had to undergo a very dramatic surgery to save her life. Do you want to tell us kind of about that?
Yeah, she had what they call a right functional hemispherectomy, and that is where they disconnect the right side of her brain, and they took out about 30% of it so that they could get in there to make the disconnections. So she currently has no right side of her brain, the right hemisphere. She's only functioning with the left side. And what that did was almost like a stroke effect for her. She lost all movement and she had partial paralysis after surgery of the left side. And currently today she still has partial paralysis. She can do a lot more, but she also has surgery-induced cerebral palsy because of the surgery too. So.
Can you tell us about what went into her recovery? I know she's made a remarkable progress. I imagine you had a ton of physical therapy. I'm a PT assistant, so and I could see when she came in that it definitely has a stroke-like look to it. What was the process for physical therapy and all the other things you had to do to get where you are today?
Well, after surgery, she was in ICU for about 5 days, and then we went into a regular monitoring room, an EMU unit, which is for seizures and brain surgery patients. She was in there for about a week, and then they started to do therapy right away, trying to get her up and moving because laying there wasn't going to help her. But she also had to stay at a certain level because she had drains coming out of her brain so that the fluid wasn't building up there to cause hydrocephalus. Right. So then after about 2 weeks, after all of that, they moved us into the intensive rehab unit at the hospital where she stayed for 5 weeks. And she would have intense therapy twice a day for, PT, OT, and speech. And it was about an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening for each of those. And it was, like I said, 7 days a week, every day. And then when we came home, she would have therapy every day. Or every week when we got home. Okay. She did a hospital type of therapy in a hospital, and then we moved on to educational therapy at a special needs preschool. That's all she did. She just went there for therapy, and that was an hour and a half each week. And currently we drive about an hour each way for OT, PT, and speech once a week.
Oh wow. Okay, so that's a challenge for you. What's been the worst as a parent? I mean, I can't imagine like monitoring the seizures and the breathing issues and all that. What was the worst part of this for you?
Not knowing when the next seizure would be. There was times where I would, towards the end before the surgery, I would have to be around her. I wouldn't let her pretty much leave the room without me because she would have a drop seizure or a seizure that just all of a sudden there was no aura. Also knowing that we couldn't help her. I think also what was hard was, in a sense, she had such a positive attitude about it, and then knowing that we wanted to help her and I couldn't. And that she kept on saying, well, when I get older, this won't happen anymore, and stuff like that. And it just breaks my heart to say, well, we don't know. And, but yeah, worrying if she wasn't going to wake up the next morning because she had a seizure through the night, not sleeping because I was scared of that.
Yeah, that would be an absolute nightmare. And I mean, are things more stable now? I mean, how are?
Oh yes, she is seizure free currently. She is medicine free, so she doesn't have to take any more seizure meds, which were horrible for a little girl. They would make her do awful things. I mean, just she wouldn't sleep, which she doesn't right now that much. But since she has her CPAP machine, she sleeps through the night. I don't have to worry about her stopping breathing. We're a family again. We can actually do family things. So we have a life again.
That's good. And what period of time was it where you basically had no life? I mean, how long did that go on?
Pretty much from about 2.5 years old. Her seizure started right after her 2nd birthday because we had gotten her vaccine right before then. And then the seizure started, and it just kept getting more and more. And she would have approximately 7 seizures a day, 7 to 10. We don't know how many because some of them were absent, some of them were, I mean, the ones that you think about, she had tons of different kinds. So you didn't know if it was just her blinking or if it was a seizure. So until about 3.5 when she had her surgery, she's been seizure free basically since then.
Okay, so about 1.5 years of just complete hell for you, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened with your case? You filed through the NVICP. Where are you in that process?
Well, currently we filed pretty much right after her surgery when we came home. So that was in 2014, 15, so I forget which one it is, about 14 there. And we were going through, and we've gone back and forth with the government, and the government has said, well, they don't know what else could have caused it, but they don't think it's the vaccines. And then they said that we could go for a table case, or a table claim, so that means that it happened within the 5 to 15 days that it says on the vaccine brochure that says that they could have a seizure or an adverse reaction. Well, hers actually came up to 15 days, 1 hour.
Wow.
The government is fighting us on that it's 1 hour difference and that it's not a table claim. So we have that in court. We're still waiting on that. Finally, that is at the special magistrate. It's been with him for about 1 year now. And we haven't had a decision or anything. Now, if he rules that says that he's on the government side, then we will move on to a causation case. And we don't know when we will get into court for that because they're so backlogged in the vaccine courts right now.
Okay, so in your case, since you haven't been able to get compensation, what have you guys been doing to make it financially with all of the treatments that she's getting?
Luckily, with BCMH, that is in Ohio, that is a subsidy for insurance for families with, it's Bureau of Children with Medical Handicap is what it is. Okay. And it subsidizes all the medical that our insurance doesn't pay for. Now, you have to pay for you have to have insurance. You have to pay part of your premiums, which we have to. But it covers basically what our insurance won't. Okay. We've never been able to get her on any kind of Medicaid or because supposedly my husband makes too much for her to qualify for that or Social Security, so we don't even get any of that.
Okay, but now when you go through the claims process, will any of that have to be paid back? I'm not
no,
sure on the process. Okay.
No, none of that will have to be paid back because this is you have to qualify for it every year, and we didn't have that compensation now, so it doesn't affect that. Okay. Luckily.
Now, was it a difficult process for qualification for that?
Not for that one. That one is based on your, like I said, if you have to have insurance and how much you pay out of pocket for your insurance. They'll also look at, how much you bring in, but it's more about do you pay your insurance and how much. So like my husband pays 100% of his premium, and we have such a high deductible, we automatically pretty much qualify for it because we're paying so much of our insurance already.
Okay, but they're not saying that we acknowledge it being a vaccine injury or anything like that. They're just treating it as her medical condition. Correct. Which is probably why you're getting anything.
Well, and the doctors that we have are wonderful. The first hospital that we were at said no, absolutely not. That's not what happened. Even though I kept saying it over and over. And they did note it, luckily, in the file that I had question that.
Okay.
Our second hospital that we are at, they have been wonderful. They don't confirm or deny it. I think it's because they're scared to almost, to lose their license or to be questioned, but they do not question it. They don't ask us if we want any more. They're done with that. They said, they will say, we don't feel like she should have any more live vaccines. That's how they put it.
Right.
For her safety at this time, we don't suggest it. But like I said, they have been wonderful. They haven't, made us feel like we're crazy and out of our minds.
Which is a relief to parents, because a lot of people in your situation, they are just completely denied. They're
Yes.
told this is a coincidence. It doesn't matter if it happened to some people 6 hours later. It's still a coincidence, and it's very frustrating as a parent to know your child is fine, to take them in, to do what you've been told is the best, safest thing for your child, and then to have them injured and then have it denied. The frustration with that, I can't even begin to imagine for parents. So I feel for you.
Well, and like with the with her having the Rasmussens, she's 1 in 14 million, so there's only about 500 in the world that's ever been diagnosed with it.
Wow.
And there is not much known. They don't really know. They thought it was an autoimmune. They don't know if it is. So with that being with the government, there's there's not enough information that, we can't say that it's a vaccine that did that, but we don't have any other reason. Now at the hospital, they say, well, we don't know. We don't know if it was a vaccine. We don't know because there's not much research out there for it. So you see the two different sides. The government doesn't want to claim it.
Right, of
but
course.
the doctors, they are telling us, well, we're not sure. Now we have some great doctors on our side from all over the world that, have been able to show the medical side of what happened with the vaccine and how this can cause Rasmussen's, and because it's an encephalitis, and that's right there on the vaccine injury fact sheet that, encephalitis,
Right.
But because it's Rasmussen's and it's a specific encephalitis, that's what they're questioning with the government.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the physicians and hospitals, they don't even realize that there is a 1986 Act that protects them from liability. So maybe they would be more apt to speak out and say, you know what, it really does look like the vaccine causes injury, but they're a little bit afraid of liability themselves, so admitting that out loud might be difficult for them. If hospitals and physicians were made aware of that, maybe that would change things a little bit for parents who say, hey, look, this is what happened. And if they know, oh, I'm not liable for that, they can maybe more freely say, okay, well, that's a good question, maybe there could be some relation there. So I know as parents, maybe we need to be reaching out to our physicians and letting them know, if nothing else, about that act.
Yeah.
So that hopefully they can take that into consideration when parents bring their concerns to them in visits, if they have reactions. And I know Roz is a super bright girl, and she knows a lot about her injury, so we don't want to leave her out of the mix here. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about what life's like for you, maybe something one of your favorite things to do.
What do you like to do?
I like to hang out with my brother and dance.
With your brother and dance. What kind of music do you like? You have a dance party with your brother?
What kind of dance do you like? What kind do you do at dance?
Ballet and tap.
Ballet and tap. Does your brother ballet and tap with you?
No, he does every dance.
He does every dance. So he just wiggles around and you guys just have a good time together?
Well, they both take dance.
Oh, he does too.
He's been dancing since he was about 3 years old.
Oh, that's so fun. Well, that's great. You have a lot in common with your brother. How old is your brother?
12.
He is 12, and you are almost 8, right? Cool. And I heard that you like to cook.
Yeah.
What is it that you like to cook?
Cupcakes.
Cupcakes. Ooh, those are delicious. Very nice. And is it the most fun part decorating it, or you actually like the baking part of it?
I like both of it.
Both. They're both fun. What would you like to tell other parents about vaccines? Maybe something you'd like to tell them about how it affected you, or if there's anything you'd like to say to them.
They can hurt people.
They can help people.
They can hurt people.
Oh, but they can hurt people. Yeah, they can. It certainly did in your case. What about to other kids? Is there anything you'd like to tell other kids, maybe about, how they should react to other kids that maybe have vaccine injuries, or how you feel, or how you'd like to be treated?
But sometimes, most of the time, people ask me about my eyes because the first thing they notice is my eye is crooked.
That your eye is crooked, and so they ask you about that. How does that make you feel?
Kind of weird.
Kind of what?
Weird.
Kind of weird.
Kinda
You feel
weird.
like you're weird. And what would you like those kids to know?
I'm a normal kid.
Yeah, you definitely are. And sometimes we can use opportunities when people talk to us. I know I say that to my boys sometimes too. You know, if somebody does ask you a question and it kind of makes you feel bad, that's a good opportunity to say, you know, this is what happened to me. And, you know, you can share your story even to your friends. And you may not be able to talk to their parents, but your friends can talk to their parents. And they might say, I met a really cool girl at school, and this is what happened to her, Mom. Did you know that? And that's a good way for you to kind of tell your story too and make a difference. So that's really cool. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about you? Maybe a fun fact about you? Besides that you like to dance and bake cupcakes.
What would you like them to know about you?
I have half a brain.
That you have half a brain.
You have a half a brain and you're still totally awesome. Do you know what you want to be when you grow up? Have you thought about that at all?
A doctor.
A doctor. What kind of doctor would you be?
A nurse, a surgeon, and a...
Supposed to be a nurse, a surgeon, and a doctor.
A nurse, a surgeon, and a doctor. You're going to have multiple degrees. I hope Mommy has a lot of money saved in your college account. She's like, I'm not in charge of that, Mom.
Yeah.
That's all you. Have you experienced any negativity as far as with her injuries?
Well, I had went kind of, there was somebody that wrote a story about us. A couple people from a blog asked if they could write a story about what had happened.
Okay.
And it went out, it was put out there, and it kind of went viral. If you look up her name, she's kind of a famous person on Google, And I had gotten a couple messages, private messages from some individuals that said that, you know, we're just scaring people, that we don't know what we're talking about, that we shouldn't be saying this because we don't know for sure that this is happening. And well, with the joy of social media, you can hit block, and you know, I don't let it get to me. I know that I just tell people that yes, it is scary, but we also need to see both sides of what can happen. And you know, I was on both sides. We did vaccinate, and now we don't. Right. And I can see, you know, I say, I thought we were doing the right thing. And then we learned. And so I can understand where parents are coming from. When they do vaccinate, they think they're doing what is best for the kids. And now I see the other side, that I don't want them to put anything else in my children.
Right.
And so I tell people that I'm not telling you what to do. It is your right. And I just want that right as a parent too, to not. And I before I block them, I send that message and just say, you know, I'm sorry that you feel this way, and that's fine. And I hope you have a great day. I never stoop to their level.
Right. You just have to kind of release that negativity and not let it affect you.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, you know, we all know as parents, if we do something and that something harms our child, it's irresponsible for us as a parent to do that again. And I think any parent should be able to understand that. If your kid has a peanut allergy, you don't force feed them peanuts.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's not a rocket science situation. It's just good parenting. So you're being a great parent to Roz. You're doing what's best for her, and that's not for any other parent to judge. So I'm sure at this point you've met other families with vaccine injury.
Yes, we have. Mainly through Facebook. I mean, and groups like that. I've been introduced through. Actually, what happened when we found our lawyer while we were in the hospital with rehab after her surgery. There was a nurse that gave us the name to our lawyer. That's who she was using, because she was fighting for her son who was just fine until he had a vaccine.
Oh,
and
okay.
Then he had the autistic. He was on the spectrum and everything. And she gave us, so I mean, we were touching people while we were there and explaining our stories and telling people what had happened. But I mean, besides that, there's not a lot of people. We're in a small town, and they don't really speak up about that. And she's one, like I said, of very few. But the more and more we talk about it, it's crazy how I hear people say, you know, I wondered about that with my child, or, you know, I wish they didn't do this. So I think it's getting more more awareness is out there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think there is some more acceptance than there used to be when we first started this. Just in the short few years that it's happened, I've seen a more of an acceptance in the community and in the nation when it comes to vaccine injury. The whole correlation and causation is still out there, you know, the questioning, but I think, but it does scare me with the schools, but luckily we homeschool. But our school, the hometown school, when we went in to just do an assessment, they were accepting. They're like, okay, fine, here's the paper, you know, you can
For
sign
your
it.
exemption, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
we have exemption rights here in Ohio.
Yeah, but I mean, some
They're
of them
constantly
kind
under
of hide
attack,
it.
but
Yes.
we have them.
Right, and I mean, that scares me, but I think that Ohio is one of the better states, I would say, to live in when it comes to exemptions wise and being informed of what can happen.
Right. Did you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to leave for the parents?
I tell every parent, it is your choice. And I don't feel like vaccines are necessary anymore now that this has happened to her. But it is your right to choose. You have the right to choose to wait because you can always vaccinate. You can't unvaccinate. Yeah. I also suggest to do them one at a time. Luckily with Rosalind, that's how we were choosing to do it, was one at a time. And if it wasn't for that, we've had doctors say that she might not have been with us because the multiple amount of vaccines probably would have done more damage. So I say do them one at a time and be aware of any changes. We had thought that it was just because it was hot out and that's why she was more lethargic and she was off, and actually that was more of the signs that we didn't notice at first. But be aware of if any changes, just be vigilant. Don't just say, oh, well, that's a fever because that's what the doctor said and it's okay. No, that's not all right. Your child shouldn't be getting sick after a vaccine. But it's your right. You have a right to choose. Make sure that it's an educated choice. But don't make us feel bad because we choose not to do them anymore. My child doesn't walk around with these diseases growing in her body. They're just like your child. They're just as healthy as they are.
Right. We kind of live in a society very much based on fear, you know, that unvaccinated kids are some sort of disease vector. And the reality is disease is in the environment. And vaccinated children have been known to get the diseases as well. And that's just the reality of life. But as a parent who has an injured child, it is our duty to protect our little ones from further harm. So we definitely should not be judged for that in any way. Well, I appreciate you guys both coming. I know you had to drive a long time to get here. So thank you for coming. Can I shake your hand and Mommy's hand too? Yes. Thanks. Thank you everybody for watching today. I hope that you will investigate vaccines and the side effects before you make that decision. NVIC.org is a great resource. You can look at what kinds of vaccine reactions to watch for. And also, if you continue to follow our page on Facebook, we will bring you further interviews. Also, www.ohioamf.org. We hope to serve you and the community with bringing awareness on vaccine injury and encouraging legislation that is for informed consent and vaccine choice in our state. Thank you.